Welcome again. So today's lecture will be on the factors affecting the shelf life of the food products. So before we go in details, we should understand what do you mean by the shelf life. We know that the packaging is an essential part of the processing and distribution of foods. We know that the foods are grown, the crops are grown in the field, and once they are processed, means when the edible parts are segregated from the inedible parts, the crops become suitable for consumption. So all the unit operations which are performed to make the food suitable for human consumption may be termed as the processing operations. And once the food material is processed, it need to be packaged in appropriate material and according to the demand of the consumer so that it can be distributed efficiently among the consumers. So packaging performs both the role. It gives extension to the useful life of the food material as well as it helps or aids in the distribution of the food materials. If we want to understand the shelf life of a food product, then in simpler words, we can say that the shelf life is a time period during which the food material is suitable for human consumption, or it is it is the time it takes the product to decline to an unacceptable level. The acceptability and unacceptability of the food material depends upon person to person. A product may be acceptable to one group of the person or it may be unsuitable for the another group. So therefore, in broad terms, we can say that the shelf life is a time period during which the food product remain stable. In processed food materials, every food manufacturer must declare the minimum acceptable quality of the food product. And it depends upon the degree of degradation which it will be allowed before the manufacturer no longer want to sell the product. What I mean to say, if there is an appreciable change in the quality of the food product, then the food manufacturer must withdraw the food from the market. There are certain factors on which the shelf life of the commodity depends. First is the processing methods, how the food material is processed. Another one may be the packaging methods and the storage conditions. We know that the processing operations may be as simple as the cleaning, washing, drying, segregation, sorting, etc. Or it may be as complicated as the pasteurization, sterilization, high pressure processing, or various other advanced methods. So the quality and the shelf life of the food product depends upon what kind of method we have adopted for that purpose. The another factor that affect the quality of the or the shelf life of the food product is the packaging methods. There are two aspects of packaging. One is the selection or choice of the packaging material, and another one the what kind of package we are going to use for the storage of the food product. The another factor that have a profound effect on the quality of the food and shelf life of the food product is the storage condition. The food may be stored in ambient condition or food may be stored in low temperature or other advanced methods of storage like controlled atmospheric packaging or the modified atmospheric storage. You take one example. If we held the milk under ambient condition, naturally it will have a lower shelf life as compared to the milk which is stored in the low temperature condition or good refrigeration conditions. Clear? So that way we understand the role of storage condition on the shelf life of the food product. The factors affecting the shelf life of the food material during storage may be grouped into two broad categories. There may be some factors which may be termed as the biotic factors, which includes the activities and the population of the microorganisms such as bacteria, yeast, and mold, and the activities of the food enzymes and other chemical reactions in the food itself. We know that the food materials are living system. They respire, and during the respiration process, some kind of energy is being utilized, and that way the dry matter content of the food material is affected. The another biotic factor that affect the shelf life of the commodity is the infestation by insects, parasites, and rodents. During the storage, we expect the invasion of insects, parasites, and rodents, and that these factors they affect the total useful life of the food product. Some abiotic factors which also affect the shelf life of the food product are the temperature. Many a times, if the inappropriate temperature conditions are maintained during the storage, the food may not be having the desired shelf life. The food material are active, they lose moisture, they gain moisture depending upon the environmental condition, and that way they affect the shelf life of the commodity in a great way. There is a common analogy that higher the moisture content, lower will be the shelf life of the commodity. Another important abiotic factors affecting the shelf life is the reaction with oxygen or the presence of oxygen in the storage or the package system. Certain microorganisms which are aerobic in nature, they require oxygen for their respiration and proliferation. The presence of oxygen naturally helps in the multiplication of the microbial population. That way, the shelf life of the commodity is greatly affected or it is generally lowered. Other factors includes the light, the physical stresses and abuse, and time. If we classify the factors, broadly classify the factors that affect the food spoilage, that is responsible for food spoilage, they may be the physical factors, the chemical factors, and biological factors. Now we will come to the interaction of spoilage agents with the environmental factors such as water, oxygen, light, and pH. We know that the microorganisms are present everywhere. They are present all the time. They are present everywhere. They are omnipotent, omnipresent. So thousands of genera and species of the microorganisms are present on the Earth's surface. Several hundred are associated in one way or another way with the food products. Not all causes the food spoilage. We cannot say that all the microorganisms present they are harmful to us. There are category of microorganisms which we will be using for the production of different kind of food products. So what I wish to say here is that the microorganisms they are generally harmful to the food product, but they are not always harmful. There are certain microorganisms which are useful to the food products also. With the help of microorganisms, we produce different kind of food products such as for the production of cheese, sauerkrauts, and certain kind of sauces, we use the lactic acid producing microorganisms. Similarly, for the production of alcohol, certain type of microorganisms are used for the production of beer and wines and for the flavor production. So what I want to say here that the interaction of microorganisms with the food material is perpetual, it cannot be avoided. So the better strategy is to control the activity of the microorganisms. Clear? When we want to produce some foods which are fermented in nature, the fermentation is done with the help of certain group of microorganisms. They need to be cultivated and they need to be inoculated properly, and proper conditions should be given so that the defined kind of desired type of fermented food is produced. So basically, in broad sense, we can say that the interaction of microorganisms with the food material is generally harmful unless we control the growth and multiplication of microorganisms in a controlled way so as to produce the different kind of food products. Now we will come to the point when we want to discuss the places where the microbial contamination have chances for the proliferation of microorganisms. As I have told you that microbes are present everywhere. They are present in soil, they are present in water, they are present in air, even on the skin of the cattle, the microorganisms are there. On the feathers of poultry, you can find microorganisms. And in intestine and cavities of the animal bodies, microbial population is there. In fruits and vegetables, they are present on the skin of the fruits and vegetable, hulls of the grains, and shells of the nut. Microbes, they may be present on the processing equipment if they are not properly sterilized or sanitized. They may be present on the hands and skin and clothing of the persons who are handling the food processing operations. Broadly speaking, the microorganisms, they are not found within the healthy living tissues or within the flesh of animals or in the flesh of juices of the plant. But they are always present to invade the flesh of a plant or animal through breaks in the skin or if the skin is weakened by disease or death. What I mean to say here, every food material have some protective system. Say for example, in fruits and vegetable, we are having skin. So for microbes, it is very difficult to penetrate and proliferate inside the food material. But in case if there is some injury, some kind of bruising, cutting, or some physical damage is there on the protective surface, that is on the peels, or because of certain chemical reactions, the peel or protective covering is weakened at certain point, the microbes have chance to get into the food material. So that way they spoil the food materials because of the cracks and damage on the skin, the microbes get a chance to invade the inner flesh of the material. So therefore, if we want to prolong the shelf life of a food material, then the strategy may be three-pronged. First is to avoid the contamination. It means the food material should not be placed in a condition where the microbes have chance to invade the food material. Second is, in case if the food material is invaded with certain microorganism, then we should try to destroy the microbial flora and fauna in the food, or we should reduce the microbial population to a level where it is acceptable or it may not cause any kind of disease or spoilage in the food material. And third is that once the microorganisms they are destroyed from the food, it should be packed in a container which is sterile, and we should try to maintain the sterile condition during its transportation and storage and consumption of the food by the consumer. There are certain places where the microbial contamination of the food product may take place. Say, for example, in dairy products, when the milk is derived from the cow, normally when the milk is in the udder of the cow, it is sterile. But once it is being released to the external environment, the microbes present in the air, they may infect or they may invade the food material. The utensils which are not properly sanitized or properly cleaned, they may be a source of contamination for the dairy products. Similarly, the beef become contaminated when the animal is slaughtered and the protected skin is broken, especially during cutting. Clear? Fruit products, vegetables and grains and nuts become contaminated when the skin or shell are broken or weakened. In this photograph, you can see that there are certain places where the skin is damaged and you can see the microbial growth in these photographs. This is the egg. You can see the white dirty egg, and you can see that the outer part of the or the shell of the egg is quite dirty and contaminated. In the next chapter, we will discuss the different kind of microorganisms such as yeast, mold, bacteria, and fungi. Thank you.